Jade works as a community leader in Milton Keynes, and she runs the Milton Keynes Melting Pot, or the MK Melting Pot. Now, Jade works with a lot of people in the Black community, and she has firsthand knowledge of most of the things that people within the BAME community face here in Milton Keynes. And that's why I've invited Jade here today. Jade, I'd like you to give us an overview of what's happening in that city regarding poverty and regarding people from the BAME communities.
Good afternoon, Nana. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me into this interview this afternoon. I think the challenges started about 5 years ago that we started researching into, but it became a really big concern 2 years ago regarding poverty in Milton Keynes in the BME community. So the poverty, everybody assumed that poverty is just food poverty, but we found that it wasn't just food poverty. It's actually education poverty, income poverty as well, because when you haven't got enough education and you are going to be going for the low skilled jobs in Milton Keynes. And because Milton Keynes, as beautiful and as vibrant as Milton Keynes is, rent is very expensive, transportation is a nightmare. And so this problem is encountered with people going for the low income jobs. And what we found out was then we had the epidemic that happened in March. We were looking after 24 families called before COVID-19 happened, but now we're down to 88 families and we still got people on our waiting list. Why? Because not because they don't want to work, it's because they cannot survive with their income in paying their rents, their bills, and looking after their children. And be mindful that during the epidemic, the children were not in school. They were at home. And when children are at home, they eat more food. They're always hungry, not because they're bored and they're afraid. And some of them, from the feedback we have, said they think they're going to die. We had 3 fathers in Milton Keynes, the families we look after, that lost their fathers to COVID-19. This is real. It's not just a story or the faces you see on TV. This is in our city. But going back to the question you asked us about poverty. Poverty, we found with children, young people from 11 years old to 17 years old that we interviewed, found that they haven't got aspiration, career aspiration. Why? Because my mom is working, she's a cleaner. My mom is working in a restaurant. She cleans the restaurant, she works in the restaurant, and the challenge is that how do you start to say to the child that, you know what, you can achieve if you study hard, when you've seen 3-4 generations of your parents and your grandparents in poverty, you see no light at the beginning or at the end of the tunnel. And so some of them, a case study that we had is a child hears the mother crying at nighttime, crying and just crying her eyes out that there's no money. She doesn't know how she's going to survive. And this young guy is 14 years old saying to himself, I need to help my mother. I need to help my sibling because he has 2 other younger siblings. Went to school a couple of days after and said, I need to make some extra money. But the wrong crowd of child, it went to the wrong friend at the wrong time, that it was vulnerable and he needed help. From that one thing happened to another, is now in a gang, is now selling drugs in our city. Milton Keynes, as beautiful as Milton Keynes is a Colombo village where drugs, young youth prostitution, county line prostitution is happening in our city because they want to put food on the table for their parents, where a child indirectly becomes a parent looking after their siblings. In this city, we found children having bread and water. It breaks our heart to find out that in this beautiful, wonderful city, this is going on. The drugs in the gangs in Milton Keynes with young people is a big epidemic. Self-harm in our girls, self-harming themselves because they feel no self-worth. They feel no self-value. They feel poverty. I can't get out of this. My friends are wearing these clothes. They're wearing these shoes. I cannot. When I ask mom and I ask dad, they cannot afford it. And they feel they're not beautiful because the name calling in school. And poverty is seen because when you say you're going on holiday or you're having something for Christmas or you're having something for the summer, these young people haven't got anything to talk about. And due to the epidemic, a lot of the clubs cannot open. So these children are really, really afraid. And that's why they go into gangs thinking that, I want a self-belonging. I want to be able to have some money. Not knowing that when they enter the gang, you cannot come out. It's a sin. You've known the secrets. And then before you know, you're carrying a weapon to defend yourself. Before you know, you start carrying a gun. Before you know, you're a drug. You go deeper and deeper into it because you want to make an earning for your parents. Whereby children of 14, 15 years old are becoming very ardent, emotional detached. They have no emotions. Why? Because they have to show that, you know what, I'm a bigger person in order for me to protect my territory. In Milton Keynes, as I speak to you, more than 19 Black Africans and mixed heritage of African leaders and children of tomorrow have killed themselves. We need to come together as leaders in Milton Keynes and put down everything that we have to make sure that we allow these children to survive. This is our future. And because there is no links, we have parents coming in from France, from Germany, from Holland, that language is a barrier. How do you start to explain to these parents the different culture we have in England? When a parent goes to work at 4 a.m. in the morning to put food on the table, and they're not back until 7 a.m. in the evening. The child is raised by those people that hang around that look for vulnerable children. Where is that community, where a village you raise a child? We have no community to come in together. The community is not there. So I applaud leaders. I applaud you, Nana, and whoever you're going to speak to. We need to work together to make sure that these children are kept safe. No child becomes crazy. No child becomes a drug addict. There's a story and an holistic family. We need to put help in place. We need to put care in place. We need to take back our children and nurture them the way we were nurtured, with love, with warmth, and being available, just being a listening ear. Just be there for that child. Whereby a parent is tired and they call parent meeting. And Africans, I know we're busy. Caribbeans, I know we're busy. Go to parent meeting. Get involved. I know the language might be overwhelming for you. I know they might say things about your child. But when you get involved, you would know and open your eyes when you're indoors to realize that that child, what is your child doing? Do you know your child? The person, a couple of people died, children that died, their parents never knew they were selling drugs. Their parents never knew they carried weapons. But these things are not invisible. Do not allow us to lay down ourselves, but let us allow our children to thrive. If we don't, the beautiful city, I left London to come into Milton Keynes about 14 years ago because of the crime in London and in Lambeth. I am burdened that now our city is running round with drugs. And not just drugs. These children have no love, no respect. And the fundamental right of our culture and our heritage is respect, is love, and working together as a family. Where are the leaders? Where are we? Not just talking. Let's do something to take back our city. I applaud you, Nana. Thank you for doing this. But let's work together, every leader, church leaders, mosque leaders, community leaders. Let's work together to make sure that our children don't kill each other again. And the ones that are not carrying knife are not afraid to go to school. There's so many schools, secondary schools are in shambles. You need to work with your children to get tutors in for your children. You have to help your children because the schools are overloaded. They're overwhelmed with the situation, whereby you have Catholics in the class, taking over a class and bringing down the teacher because of attitude. But that child is not to blame because that child is overwhelmed. There is no love. So that child thinks that when I come to school, I'm empowered. I want to touch somebody. Why? Because that child is craving for love, craving for attention. And when you're starved of attention, how can you thrive in the class? Whereby a year 9 students we picked up does not know the 2 times table, 3 times table. And in year 9, and that will go on until GCSE before the challenges come out. So where are the parents? And how can we mobilize these parents? How can we start to retrain parents? Whereby if you can bake, why don't we turn them into bakers? Do your normal job or reduce your hours, then go into self-employed and start baking, but be available for your child. That when the child comes, there's a warm meal, there's something warm in the house, you are available. Even if you cannot speak a proper English language, but the child knows my mother or my father is available. And then single parent in Milton Keynes is a nightmare. It's a nightmare in Milton Keynes, whereby mothers are working just to pay the bills. They cannot survive. And not every mother or every Black Africans and BME can go to the council to get help or to the government because there are no cost to public refunds. We have 15 families that have been made redundant and have no cost to public funds. We are working with warehouses, trying to put them in warehouses. You have to work because we're paying their bills, we're paying their light bills, but I'm saying to them, we're a small charity. We can provide you with food. We cannot continue paying your light bills. You need to go into warehouses. So we're putting them into warehouses. But the challenge there is warehouses 12 hours shift. So how do they survive? It's a catch-22 situation. And when they're writing home office to try, calling home office is overwhelmed because they're also in this catch-22. What do? They're trying to lift up the band of no cost to public fund. Nobody predicted COVID-19 is a time bomb. So the problem arises, the problem was there before, but now, I don't know. I don't know what January will hold. We don't know what January will hold for this family because all the bills and the credit cards they've used, they have to start paying it back. The holiday's over. And still yet, there is no end. There is no time limit for them. The children are still there. They got 4 or 5 children. And then you have people with sickle cell anemia, whereby their children in this time of winter, they need more warmth. They need more food. They need help. How do we come together to make sure that this beautiful Milton Keynes that we call Milton Keynes, cracks are here. Everywhere you turn, there are cracks in Milton Keynes. We have no youth clubs in Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes is one of the most expensive cities that you can live in. For children, when you turn 12 years old, you can't take them to Children's Center anymore. They need youth clubs. They need something that will inspire them. Because if we don't inspire our young people and empower them and mobilize them, then the drug addicts, the criminals will take over these children because they can give them the bling bling. They can give them the trainers. They can give them the latest phone because there's nothing for them. Whereas if we are available as leaders and we put structures in place, not waiting around for the council only, but coming together, partnershiping together and working on our skills and our resources, then we can do something for these young people. I don't know what tomorrow holds because you can see the epidemic has indebted our young people, even their careers. We have people that have come out doing their PhD, doing their masters, doing their degree. There is no job. So this epidemic and the poverty and the income poverty is not going to go away. It's not a 6 weeks project. It's not a 12 weeks project. It's an ongoing project that we can do together, that we can use to be able to empower these young people. They're leaders, purposeful, driven children, but being nurtured in love and in warmth, we can turn things around for them. But it will take a while. It's not a one tick fits one, because you have the ones that are saying to us, I don't mind cutting myself till I bleed to death.
Oh God.
These are our future.
Oh, Jesus.
And when we go to bed at night thinking that, okay, it's okay, my home, what about the home that there's no warmth? We haven't touched domestic violence in our community yet.
Jade, you're upsetting me. You're making me cry, Jade. The issues are too much. It's too much.